You're listening to another ambitious entrepreneurnetwork.com podcast, the voice for entrepreneurs and small business. Now, onto the show.
Well, today's show is different and so much fun because today I'm going to introduce to you and showcase you to three awesome business owners. A fourth couldn't join us today, but that's all right. We will hold her in our thoughts because today is our virtual launch party for the business owners who've been working so hard behind the scenes to create awesome content, which they're now sharing with the world. And we get to feature them on today's podcast. Now, the first business owner who is joining me today is Amanda Heel. Before we meet her, before we find out more about her podcast, let me share with you her logo, her podcast graphic, and also her intro to give you a little bit of insights into what she's speaking about on her podcast.
Welcome to the Do What You Love podcast, a podcast with a mixture of personal development and career advice to help you reach your full potential. Now over to your host, Life Purpose Champion, Amanda Heel.
So Amanda, the Do What You Love podcast. And I know you are doing what you love, what you're passionate about in the work that you do too. So for those people who may not have yet had an opportunity to listen to you, to read your incredible content that you're sharing regularly, share a little bit more about your work and who is Amanda Heel?
Well, thank you so much, Annemarie, for having me here on the show. I'm Amanda Heel. I am totally blind. I used to be a lawyer and then I took a redundancy or a package and retrained as a coach and speaker. And now my passion is that no one would ever live a life without purpose. And so I'm passionate about helping people discover their life purpose, which is the thing that they were created to do. And if they can live that out, then they will live and work at their very best and be at their very happiest.
Yes. And I love that you're sharing your insights into this area because, you know, you struggled. I mean, you loved your work at one stage as a lawyer, yet things started to happen that had you question, you know, is it really what I want to do for the rest of my life, my career life? And you've gone through that journey. And take us back to that. The reason I ask that is that it is the beginning of 2020. And so often at the beginning of the year, the end of the past year, which is 2019, beginning of a new year, which is now 2020, there can be many people that are questioning the work that they're doing, whatever career or industry that they're in. Do I really want to spend 2020 working in this same role? Take us back. What were some of the things that would come up for you when you started questioning, do I really want to continue doing what I'm doing?
Well, you know, I'd been happy for about 14, 15 years in my 17-year law career. And then things just didn't feel right anymore. I wasn't looking forward to Mondays anymore. I was starting to dread them, really, dread getting up for work each day. It had lost its shine. I mean, yes, I know that, you know, you do a job for 17 years and it does kind of lose its shine a bit, but it had gone beyond that. The values of my workplace were not the same as my values. Changes had taken place which I didn't think were right. We weren't being treated as well as perhaps we should have. And also there was just a feeling of, I've done this for 17 years. I'm, you know, in my mid-40s. Can I do this for another 25 years? You know what? I don't think I can. There must be more to life than this.
Yes. How long had that gone on for, Amanda? Had that been a couple of months, couple of years? What specifically, what was the time length? Can you recall?
It was a gradual thing. It started about 2 years before I left, and it was just started off as a gradual niggle in the back of my mind, and then it just got worse and worse and worse. And then I'd start looking for jobs, and I'd think, oh, I've overspecialized, you know, I don't think I can do anything else. And so I just felt really stuck, and that just got worse and worse and worse.
Yes. And then something happened, which of course is another area that you now specialize in helping clients. And that is that you found yourself facing a redundancy, didn't you? And that word redundancy can bring up a lot of fear for many, but you've gone through that journey. And now I bet you can say that your redundancy was probably the best thing that ever happened, because had it not been for that, you would not have started to do some soul searching. Am I
Oh,
correct in saying that?
absolutely correct. Yes, it is the best thing that ever happened to me, because initially I was terrified, absolutely petrified. It's like, how am I going to pay the mortgage because our agency was downsized, and an announcement was they were going to be downsized and they were going to cut 7 legal jobs. And people used to say, "Oh, are you going to be, are you afraid of losing your job?" And I was like, "No, no, heavens no. I'm a lawyer, I'm a woman, and I have a disability. They wouldn't dare." But they did dare. And I was terrified. I thought, how am I going to live? How am I going to pay the mortgage? It's not like I can get, as a totally blind person, it's not like I can get a job as a pizza delivery person or a checkout chick until something better comes along. So I was really scared. And then, I did start to soul search as I was looking for jobs and really thinking. It forced me to really think, what do I want to do? What, there might be life outside the law. What is that? What would that look like? And I started looking at everything from being a tutor to being a, a writer to doing copywriting work, all sorts of different things. And I jumped into network marketing, um, which again wasn't the best thing at the time, but I've learnt so much from it. So I don't regret one single minute of that soul searching, making mistakes time that I went through, because now I'm doing what I'm meant to do and I'm really happy and I'm making a difference in the lives of other people.
Yeah, I love that you've reconfirmed that, because so often what we can do is look at our journey and we can beat ourselves up, can't we?
Mm.
And a whole lot of negative emotions just compound and help us or enable us to feel even worse off in the situation. But I love the way that you've looked at experiences that you went through at that time, and now that it has given you better insights into yourself. I think self-awareness and knowing more about what makes you happy, what lights you up, the strengths, the gifts that we have naturally been blessed with. When we start to understand that, we can make better decisions. And if we find ourselves in a place that we think, you know what, this is probably not the best for me, we can shift a lot quicker. And it sounds like that's kind of the journey that that you went on. And so, if people are listening or watching this recording down the track and find themselves in a redundancy, whilst it's easy for us to say, like, Amanda, it might seem easy, her saying it was the best thing that ever happened. Now you can really honestly, with hand on heart, can't you, Amanda, say that the work that you're now doing absolutely gives you real fulfillment and meaning? Yes?
Absolutely. And when I look back over my life, all the things that I've learned, all the things that I've gone through, even as a child, all the experiences I've had, all have come together into this one purpose, which is to inspire and encourage other people.
Yes, yes. So all of that compiled into really the topics and things. Now you have launched the Do What You Love podcast. Now, I can imagine that it really was it difficult for you to come up with the name Do What You Love podcast, because it really is what you do, isn't it? You help people discover what it is that really lights them up and how they can start to make have meaning, but also some, monetize that, if you will. So, how difficult was it for you to come up with that name, Do What You Love?
That was really the easy part. The harder part was coming up for the name for my business, which is Purpose, Vision, Future.
Yes.
But no, the Do What You Love podcast was easy.
Yeah. And tell us, what are some of the topics that you're bringing to the airwaves?
Well, the first 3 episodes are all about purpose. The fourth, and I tell my story a little bit and describe what it looks like to live outside your life purpose, and then describe what it looks like to live inside your purpose. Then I have an episode about the 5 things you can do if your job is making you unhappy. And then
Mhm.
episode 5, which I'm just about to upload when we finish this podcast, is about the 3 strategies you can use to overcome the fear of career change.
Yeah, fabulous. I love that. And for those of you who are watching, and of course, if you're listening, you've got to get over to the live stream because we're also live streaming this. We're showing you her podcast website, that Do What You Love podcast.com. Now, you mentioned at the beginning of our interview, Amanda, and it's something that when I first met you weren't really openly sharing, and that is that you have no sight. And to me, when I started to hear the things that you were doing, just amazed me because I cannot imagine going through life without sight. Now, you developed this podcast website yesterday, didn't you? So, and one of the hashtags that you do is where there is a will, there is a way. And you bring that out. You live that, don't you? Tell us,
Yes.
where there is a will, there is a way. What does that mean to you?
Well, I'm stubborn. I mean, basically, I'm the sort of person that if someone says you can't do something, I'll go, right. Just to prove you wrong, I'm going to find out a way that I can. So, where there's a will, there's a way. It's a little hashtag I use on my other website, which is purposevisionfuture.com, and also on LinkedIn and Facebook. And I post about just little challenges that I face as a blind person, and how I get around them. And people seem to like them. I just think, oh, well, this is just my life. But people seem to like it, so I keep sharing it. Just little things like, I couldn't work out how to use my vacuum cleaner. So I called someone and they helped me download the manual, and then I was able to scan that or read the manual online and work out how to use it. And, I've got a smart speaker, an Amazon Echo speaker, which now controls some of my kitchen lights, and that attaches to an iPhone app, so I can now tell when the lights are on and when they're not. So,
Yeah.
just little things like that. People
Yeah.
seem to find
Why
that
I
interesting.
say that too. I mean, and one of the things that you said, that's just me. I'm stubborn. But for people who are thinking, there's no way that I could possibly start a podcast because of technology, yet to think that you edit, I mean, obviously one down the track, I'm sure you'll get support team, but you are one of those people that love to learn first, implement yourself, and then down the track you decide whether you want to hire a team to do that. But just the editing of the podcast, you do that all yourself. You get it up there. And, if you could do that, then I'm sure others who assume that they can't do that, there's a way.
Oh, you've disappeared. I can't hear you. I think we must be buffering.
Recently launched her podcast, but stick around, Amanda. We will bring you back on after I have spoken to Marita, and then David is up after that. But it's been wonderful speaking with you. Just before we put you back in the green room, what is the website that people can hear your podcast and can subscribe to it? Do you want to share it one more time?
Yes, the website is the dowhatyoulovepodcast.com. And could I also, if I may, yes, I did do the website yesterday, but I have to give credit to Helen Thomas of Creative Clicks, who did all the graphics for me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Of course, we need to surround ourselves with awesome people to support us. So fabulous. All right, Amanda, we'll pop you in the green room and then we'll bring you back at the end, and we'll bring everyone on to celebrate each other. All right, let's bring. See you later. Marita, how are you? Sitting there very patiently in the green room. So before we dive in, let me just play your intro, and then we'll share more about who you are and the topics you're going to be bringing on your show.
This is Moving Toward Connection, the podcast that connects and inspires anybody to instigate positive change toward a better world. Here's your host, Marita Albert. catalyst, connector, and lover of humanity.
Well, there you go. Love that you are here. Now, you've recently published your podcast as well, and there's a number of topics that you're also passionate about that really speaks into what you really enjoy doing. So, how did you come up with the name of the podcast, and what are some of the topics that you're passionate and will be sharing on that particular show?
Yeah, thanks. I'm really excited actually that it's finally launched, because it's taken quite a while, and I do apologise for my voice this morning, but I've been living in smoke for the last month. The name actually I struggled with for a long time. Probably a couple of months I was tossing around different names, and they weren't clicking. They didn't sound right, and suddenly Moving Toward Connection just worked. I just suddenly came up with it. It was like one of those light bulb moments, I suppose. And so I found that it summarises exactly what it is that I'm trying to do, which I've found that I have connecting is one of my strengths and one of the things that I love doing. I'm one of those people that will talk to people in the supermarket queue, much to my boys' disgust. And people on planes, if they want to talk, I will talk. I usually sleep, but if they're talking, I'll talk and connect. And I often will connect with a lot of people and not even find out their names or where they necessarily live, but I love getting their stories. And I suppose at heart I am and trained as a librarian, and so stories are inbuilt into me. But
Yes.
Everybody has such an amazing story, and I find that these days there's a lot of disconnect. We're not hearing people's stories. We're only getting the drama that's on social media, or the even worse drama that's on our media news reports. And I really believe that we need this connection. We need connection to people. We need connection to ourselves. We need connection to place, to the earth. And we need connection to our community, but we also need connection to our ancestors. So I just found that the Moving Toward Connection sums up the process of not just connecting, but it's baby steps. We all just need to get moving toward it, make steps to connect to ourselves first, and then our community, and then the earth, and then our ancestors, or whatever order you want to do it in, but just take steps to start connecting.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. And it's very powerful because, often the message and the stories that we share are very much close to our heart, which, as we've seen and heard you just share, it is in your podcast case, just like Amanda's, it's very close to your heart. It's near and dear. You want to express that. And I know that sometimes, coming up with a name that, because what you try and do is also look at your audience and who they are and the impact that you want to make. But I love that you've stayed true to who you are, and connections very much around what you're wanting to really impart. Because one of the things you said, you're a librarian, but you're also a farmer, aren't you? And
Yes.
so you're very connected to your land. And you were saying, the type of shows that I want to bring, and I would love you to share more about some of the topics that are coming up, can be about my life and how that I can connect with others and perhaps support them in becoming more connected to the land. There's nothing better than to grow something and see it grow from a seed, and then into a plant, and then something that eventually you serve on your table. So share a little bit more about that.
About the connection with the farming, or about the top? Yeah.
Oh, and topics too.
Yeah. So I think connections to ourself tends to be fairly self-explanatory, because we need to listen to our bodies. Connection to other people, we understand, is actually relating to other people. But connection to the land, and people often think of farming as something that is just a job that you just do, but it's not. It's a connection. It's a deep connection to place. And most Indigenous cultures have this belief in connection to place. And farming, you will find that all farmers, they're not in it for the money, because goodness me, it's a lifestyle decision, really. It's a very iffy thing for money, particularly when it all gets burnt out. However, the connection things don't grow if you're not connected to them. And I think that goes across everything. So with farming, you need to be connected to the water. You need to know what's happening with the weather. You need to be knowing what's growing, what's shooting at any one time, how much feed is there going to be available for the stock it, when you need it to be, or when is the optimal time for planting. And without having that deep connection to the land, it's really difficult. And so farmers are essentially the first line of greenings, really. Like they have to look after their land, because otherwise it doesn't produce what they need it to produce to feed the world. So I find it's a very deep connection that they need.
And you shared something earlier, and for those people who are watching and listening, they may not be aware what's going on. You live in an area that was very much impacted by these drastic fires that many of the parts of Australia have faced. And you shared a photo of the before, a number of years ago, where everything was just lush in green, and then of course the fires hit, and and then it was dry and a lot of cinders and everything. But one of the things that we know to be true about the land, and what's really special, and you'll see this, and we've seen this in areas of even just a couple of hours away from us, where they were devastated by bushfires just a couple of years ago. The plant life that has sprung out from that is now growing. That's what the land does, doesn't it? And you see these green shoots and things start to replenish again. And whilst, you're devastated by fires that have come, when you're connected and you nurture that land again, it will spring forth. And there's something very special about that, isn't there?
There is, definitely. And it's an emotional connection as well. I mean, you see the devastation and it is heart-wrenching. But to see that new growth that you talk about to come up, it is uplifting. It is amazing. And the colour comes back. It's like an artist's palette. At the moment, I have a sepia look out the background, but there's the little green bits are starting, very small, but they're starting to come. And I even had something flower the other day that I thought had gone. So it's, there's a lot of destruction, but there's always life after it. And I think that's something that's really
I hope you're taking photographs of that, because I think that an image can share, can impart so much emotion. And what's important about that too, I think we look at that, the land that does that. When you nurture it in the right way, it springs back forth. Life comes from that. You talked about connecting with your family. I mean, there may be people that have, unfortunately, through certain circumstances, maybe some relationships that need to go through a period of restoration and healing and so forth. And so you're all about bringing those sort of topics to really help people go through whatever it is that might be keeping them stuck, so that they can reconnect either to themselves, to the land, to others. Share a little bit about some of the topics that you might have already shared. We've got your website here up on the screen. Love that picture. I love water and green. I mean, that just is capturing But tell us some of the topics that you're going to be sharing, or maybe have shared already on your podcast.
Okay. I'm a little obsessed with taking photos of rocks, rivers, and trees. I must admit, everywhere I travel, I've got lots of pictures of rocks, rivers, and trees. So I've always felt very connected to the land, and to rivers and mountains more so than the beach. So I think my roots are definitely in the mountains. I have a passion for essential oils, and they're gifts of the earth. And I have also done generational emotional mapping. I've been interested in family history since I was a kid, and I'm a family historian as well. So I found a way to combine all that. I've also done some energy healing work, and generational emotional mapping. I'm now a therapist in that, and it's really interesting to hear about the emotional aspects that we all have and how they've been passed on often through generations. And so
sometimes we don't even know.
We don't realise it, and it just gets worse with every generation. So one of the guests that I have coming up is Joyce Turkington, who developed this generational emotional mapping page, therapy rather, and she's wonderful to listen to, and explains everything really well. So I'm very excited. I've got hers ready to go in the next few weeks. I've also got my brother who did my voiceover that you just heard. I'm very lucky to be surrounded by clever people, and I think it's part of my belief in connection is that I know people that I can, and perhaps it's a librarian skill too. Librarians don't know everything; they just know how to find the right people that do. So, and he's very involved with community radio as another way of connecting and connecting the community. I think community radio obviously is one of those aspects. So that's another topic. I've got one coming up with NIA. Now, NIA, N-I-A, is a dance, movement, exercise, mind, body, spirit sort of practice. It's amazing and I love it. It's a really hard thing to explain until you go to a class. Just go to a class and experience it yourself. But it's very much about connection to yourself and your body. And moving your body's way, healing your body naturally through movement. And so that's another one of the topics I've got. I've got some Indigenous people from, there's 2 or 3 different ones on my list, from like Canada First Nations, Maori in New Zealand, Australian. So just getting different perspectives about connection to land. I have 40 topics written down already.
Which is lovely. It's so good to hear you say that because, you know, as I'm hearing it, of course, the website to go to listen to those and, of course, to subscribe is movingtowardconnection.com. But as, you know, we're hearing you share the different topics, we can really see how each of those is in an area that you're very passionate about, but it very much is following that theme of connecting. Everyone brings that story. Yes. And what I love about that is that, you know, when you have a message to share, that's one of the things that I often say, when you have a message to share that you know is going to influence and impact the lives of others who resonate with your message, you know, just get out there and do that, because it's a way that you can connect with others. I mean, as a podcast host, you would now going out and reaching out to other people. Each conversation that you have is someone else that you now know and have had the opportunity to speak to, whereas previously you may not have had an opportunity to speak. So that really resonates beautifully with the whole connection piece. Which is fabulous. So what's been the most exciting part for you of getting this message out into the world? What's been the most exciting for you, Marita?
I've actually really enjoyed the process itself of combining talents of, well, my brother's voiceover, my cousin does my graphic design, her daughter did the music, wrote the music for me, and just pulling it all together and creating in a team this beautiful way of connecting, as you say, because that's what I felt I needed. My message needed to be shared in a wider audience, and podcasting is a great way of doing that. And I really do hope that people connect back with me, because that's what I love doing. I love hearing people's stories and connecting with people. And I travel a lot. I travel overseas. I travel within Australia, and I just love connecting with people. So that's
which is great. And no doubt you're going to be sharing a lot of those images. You like taking images, sharing those images on the website as well, which is fabulous, because one of the things that you'll find happening, if it's probably already happening now, is that like-minded people will come and surround you, you know, and you can create incredible communities around the message that you're sharing. And I know David and Carolyn, David's coming up next, they're doing that really well with their podcast as well. So congratulations, Marita. It's, you know, so to me, I feel like, this mother hen, all of her little, chicklets, well, no offense or anything, that's actually a compliment, have come out, have shared their message, and I know will certainly continue to impact many, many lives all over the globe. So thank you. We'll put you back in the green room, and then later on, after we finish speaking with David, we'll bring you and Amanda back as well. So thanks.
Thank you.
David, welcome. Sitting there patiently in the green room. Welcome, welcome.
I'm so green, I'm ready to blossom.
Well, what we'll do, David, is we'll play the intro music, and so we can see what your podcast graphic looks like, so that people can keep an eye on for that when they are going to subscribe. So let's dive in.
That's us.
There we go. Fantastic. And of course, you co-host the podcast with Carolyn Mose. Carolyn couldn't be with us today, but she certainly, I'm sure, is here in spirit for sure. So tell us a little bit about the work that you do and why you started the podcast.
Okie dokie. So interesting that the other two guests too, we're all people who have had life experience that we want to share with other people, with the world, because and I think it was Amanda said, do what you love. I was a high school teacher for 20 years, and there weren't too many days that I really loved what I was doing. And it eventually got to the point where I, like Amanda, I just knew I had to go. Luckily for me, we'd had the recession we had to have back in the late 90s, and money had become a really big issue, trying to struggle through paying 18% mortgages. And I had discovered a system. I'd created a system to better manage my money that took away all of the stress that I had about, juggling bills and juggling money that most people would experience. And I went in search of this cure because I knew that I wasn't enjoying my life. Money pressure was just ruining everything for me. And when I stumbled onto this solution, I thought, I have to share this with other people. And so that was 25 years ago. I actually started in business, and it's been an exciting journey. I left my school behind, and I have helped well over 30,000, 25 or 30 years, I guess, to take control of their finances. And it's just exciting.
Yes. I think money is one of those topics that some people, may be happy to talk about, but others, it's like this taboo subject, isn't it?
Well, nobody wants to admit to being a failure. And if you don't think you're a success because you don't have money coming out of your ears and you can have anything you want whenever you want, I think people think that's what success is all about. Well, then you don't want people to know, and it's as soon as you bottle it up, anything, it doesn't matter whether it's money or an emotion or any other problem, as soon as you bottle it up, you can't solve it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, it's all about helping people solve that money problem.
Yeah. Fantastic. And so, of course, Carolyn, when she came into the story, she was certified through your system. She's licensed, isn't she?
Yeah. So back in the early 2000s, she came to a workshop that I ran. And as she says, that day I changed her life, and she became very passionate about using the system I created. And years went by, we developed quite a good friendship, but the time came for me to change my business model, and I started to train people to represent or to use the system I'd created to help others. So duplicating
and there we
what
are.
I had done so that there was the ability to help more and more people. And yeah, she's very passionate about that, Carolyn. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a real go-getter.
Absolutely. So Succeed with Money podcast, you launched that towards the end of 2019. You've got some incredible episodes already there. What are some of the things that people will hear when they go and listen to the podcast?
Yeah, I think we're up to about episode 19 already, and we're just, we're having a lot of fun. But it's all about money. So some of the topics would be, why do people have trouble with money? How to take control of money? How to stay in control of money? Why budgeting sucks? That's a good one. And look, just about everything in life you can bring back to money in some way, shape or form, because money is tied into everything that we do. So the key thing that spending planners, and as you say, I've got close to 100 spending planners around Australia. Carolyn is very passionate, and she and I sort of said, this is something that we should do, doing a podcast. And over the course of last year, it just kind of fell into place. But I've lost my place now. What was I going to say?
Some of the topics. I've actually got your website up, and in a moment I'll share Carolyn's. We've got episode 17 here. Everyone has an addiction. Episode 16, holidays are over. Money tips for schoolies just starting out. I mean, and here's the episode 15. Oh no, not the credit card bill. So real practical topics that many people will be going through. I love the way that you've released your topics to what could be happening, or what is probably happening for many people. Obviously we've gone through Christmas, all of that Christmas spending, and the partying is over and the gathering, and then all of a sudden there comes in the mail the credit card bill. So I love the way you've really thought about the topics and the timing that you're following too.
Yeah, I guess it is partly planned, but it's all partly it falls into place because we're sort of thinking about so many things to talk about. What will we talk about next? Yeah. And it's easier for Carolyn and I because we can feed off each other. So, if I was doing this on my own, I'd be constantly looking for people to interview. But because there's the two of us running this podcast together, it's so easy because we bounce backwards and forwards off each other. And we've been good friends since early 2000, 14 or 15 years.
Yes.
And we're both the same age, so, we've got the same background. So it's really easy for us to bounce off each other and to have a bit of fun and bring out some of these important things that people need to hear about.
Yeah. I'm just going to share Carolyn, her website. And what I love about what you've done is you've got two co-hosts which are sharing the same platform on the podcast, yet you're leveraging the top, the actual content very, uniquely on your own podcast. But this image that you have here of you and Carolyn, I mean, I love it. It just shows how, passionate you are there, and you really can get a sense of that through the episodes too, because co-hosting with someone on a regular basis, it takes some real skill. When you hear both of you bounce off one another, and you really can sense that you really do love what you do. Was it always that easy when you first started? Because there are going to be people listening that might be thinking, oh, I'd love to start a co-hosted podcast, and may after the second or third kind of try go, oh, what have we gotten ourselves into? Was it easy for you? Had you always had that energy?
Look, yeah, easy is one of those words, simple and easy are kind of close, but they're different. Nothing is easy if you don't actually get in and do it. And I think I wrote a comment down here before. Every one of us has got so much inside of us, but we need other people to bring it out. You can bring out so much yourself, but other people will see things in you that you don't see, and they will bring it out. So I would not want to do a podcast without a co-host. So I take my hat off to the two girls, Marita and Amanda. You're forever needing to find other people to talk to and to interview.
Yes.
Because if you're going to sit there and lecture people, that's not fun at all.
No.
So having Carolyn and Carolyn having me, it's so easy to be able to just go, hey, Carolyn, what do you think about this? Or what's your experience about that? And we have a bit of a dig at each other, and we joke at each other as well. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah. But it's really simple. There's always the fear of how do I do this and what things do I have to put in place? I know, we've got a lot of help from you along the way, and that was really appreciated. Certainly your expertise was great. So 2019 and Annemarie Cross's sort of input. We got to the end of the year and, will we launch at the end of the year? Oh, should we wait till the start of next year? And I think you said, look, guys, just do it.
Pull the plug. Just do it. Get your message out there. People need to hear it.
Yeah. And I really appreciated that little push from you. It was good. And and you've really helped us a lot. So yeah,
Oh,
we're up and running.
well, you guys need to take all of the credit because, as you know, putting together content every every week or fortnight, depending on your productions calendar, can be a bit of a challenge. But one of the things that I mentioned earlier when we were talking with Marita around connection and community, you and Carolyn are doing that exceptionally well. And share with people the Facebook community. It's a Facebook group that you are in, and of course the Spending Planners Institute, which is very much the governing body, if you will, and you've got incredible spending planners all throughout Australia who are as passionate and committed into this particular area, helping people really start to manage money better, but so that fear and that shame and guilt and everything no longer is part of that equation. How can people connect with you and find you on the Facebook group?
Well, it's Succeed with Money is kind of entrenched in everything we do. If you go to carolynmosescsp.com.au, the next bit is Succeed with Money. I've created a website called succeedwithmoney.com, and I mean, as you say, it's all interwoven. So we get so excited, we get goosebumps when someone says to us, "You've changed our life, you saved our marriage, you've enabled us to go on a holiday, we've bought a new car, we don't have money stress anymore." So the Spending Planners Institute is behind it all. Succeedwithmoney.com is the website we've set up, which is to reach out to ordinary everyday people who just feel like they're on the treadmill doing the grind and thinking, this isn't what I signed up for. I didn't think it would be so hard. Why is money always stressful? But the Facebook is Succeed with Money Podcast. So it's really easy to find us. So if you go into Facebook, you'll find Succeed with Money Podcast. And that really is the door to Carolyn and my podcast. So yeah, it's really easy.
Yeah, fantastic. One of the things that I love that you're doing, and I know that Amanda and Marita are as well, and this is a word for aspiring podcasters or even existing podcasters. The relationship is started on the podcast as people start to find you, listen to you, consume the content. The relationship continues after the episode has gone live. So create some sort of a community where the conversation can continue, because as you continue to build that know, like, and trust with people, they will want to hang out with you. And so I know you're doing that really well with David and Carolyn and the other spending planners who are also contributing to that group.
Yep.
So.
And look, I'd have to attribute your input into that because you've given us really good guidance. So we're just sort of following the templates that you've given us, and it's really well.
That's all right. Templates, because really where you take that and then you make it your own and you start those conversations, and you're doing that really, really well and building that know, like, and trust. And I think, and this is also, and we'll bring the other two back into this conversation too, because this is relevant for all of us. With a lot of noise that is around on the web, we know that there is a lot of mistrust now. There's a lot of skepticism, and rightly so, because of, fake news and untruths and all that kind of stuff. So isn't it awesome that each and every one of you are being able to contribute your unique aspect to the conversation and being able to build that know, like, and trust with your community? Now, one of the things I know to be true, that when you start podcasting and then asking questions of others, you become very curious. So I'm wondering, I'm going to leave the door open, the platform open for, does any of you have a question for one of the other podcast hosts or one of the other storytellers here that you would like to ask as we finish off today's session? Who wants to go first? Anyone have a question or a comment or a congratulations?
Congratulations, definitely. I love the sound of both of your David and Amanda's podcasts, and I'll be going and following them up, because I think we all work really well together and cover different aspects of a similar theme.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh yes, I'd like to echo that as well. Congratulations. It's hard work to sort of get it started. So yeah, congratulations to you guys as well for finishing the course and launching the podcast. And yeah, they both sound like really interesting podcasts. So
well, Marita, I grew up on a farm, so I get that connection with the land. And Amanda, I hated my school teaching job, and I did it for 20 years. and do what you love. So I'm connecting really well with both of you with what
Awesome.
you're talking
Cool.
about. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I think just happened naturally there, and so I love that it happens, and this does happen, when you start to have your own podcast and a platform, you hear other people's podcasts and platform, then often what will happen is you'll go, well, I'll interview you, and there's a reciprocal relationship and interview that goes on there because you realise the wealth and depth of the content that they're sharing, on their podcast is so relevant and would be so beneficial to your audience as well. And this is what happens. I mean, how awesome is that?
Well, I can already see a connection with people's finances with what Amanda's doing, because I for 20 years I was a school teacher, and the year after I left school teaching, I earned more money that year than I earned in the 20 years as a school teacher.
Gosh.
When you are at work and miserable and not enjoying your life, nothing works. Your finances don't work. So I absolutely, Amanda, your what you've got to tell people would fit in so perfectly with what Carol and I are doing. So we'll be sure to seek you out.
Absolutely.
Marita,
Likewise, I'd like to talk to you more about what it was like to go from a job that you hated to something that you love and that works and everything. Yeah. Then. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll book that one in.
Absolutely.
Marita, when I first started hearing what you were saying, I thought, oh, this chick's a hippie, like she's got connection and all. But I quickly learned that, as soon as you mentioned farming, I thought, no, we're good. We're right here. I know where you're coming from there. You're connected. I understand that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the issues, though, that is interesting, that people think connection to anything, you have to be a hippie. Like I'm a very down-to-earth, grounded person, and no fluff. I'm really not into fluff. I'm not into things that take a long time. And interestingly enough, the first interview I did was with my brother about the community radio, but a lot of that is about his major change from the banking and finance industry to community radio and voiceover work. So definitely there's a lot of connection between us three, and major change. Connection, we need to change. That's the thing. And listening to ourselves is what you guys are doing. You listened to what you needed. You connected to yourself and said, that wasn't what I needed to do. I need to be, doing what I love. And so, that's awesome.
He has a very nice voice too, your brother.
He does, doesn't he?
I heard your voiceover and I thought, oh, very smooth.
Yeah. He was voted Sydney's second most sexiest voice a few years ago.
I'm not surprised.
I don't remember getting the award for the first most sexiest, so rats.
Maybe you're Melbourne based.
Suburb. One of the things that I love about what you've all done with your podcast is episode 0 very much encapsulated what you wanted to bring, to the conversation, your unique angle. And, it really goes to show what you said, David, around, there's you might have assumed that a name of something was different, but the way that Marita, you explained so clearly what you stood for, the message that you were sharing and the impact that you wanted to make. And so you've done that very clearly from episode 0, so that when people listen, they go, yep, she's the sort of person that I want to hang out with. She's someone that I want to listen to, which is beautiful. What has been and I want to ask this of all of you, what was something that you had initially thought before you started podcasting, like maybe a fear, a doubt or something, which looking back, you would say, you know what, I've worked through that. That's no longer an issue. I want you to share that, because there may be someone thinking today that they've got a message to share, but for some reason fear is still holding them back from sharing their message. And as we know, when we're not sharing our message, it means we're not impacting someone's life that may very well need to hear our message in the way that we share it. So maybe, David, we'll start with you. What would be that one thing that you would want to share?
Well, never ever think that what you have isn't worth sharing. I think it's too easy for us to think, oh, no one would want to listen to what I've got to say, or what I've got to say isn't that important, or, I'm not so special that people would want to listen to me. Because, if you're thinking that way, let it go. I think the other fear is, how could I possibly keep coming up with new topics and things to talk, even though I might be an expert in a particular field and passionate about a subject, would I be able to keep that going? And that fear could easily hold you back. But, the three or the four of us here were having a little bit of a banter there just before. And as we were doing that, I started to understand more about how I could interview Marita and Amanda and bring out things that would be, but helpful to the people who are listening to my podcast about money. Like the connectivity thing. When people are struggling with money, they tend to go inside their shell, and it's like the whole world is tough, and that's the worst thing you could do, because you need to be able to get out and be part of the community and feel like, well, hey, everybody has these hassles too. I'm not alone here. So it's just let go of all of those fears and just get in and do it.
Just do it. Just do it.
Yep.
I love that. Love that message. Thank you for sharing, David. Amanda, let's go to you for next. What would be one insight that you would want to share with people today?
Well, basically both the things David said. I was
I love going first.
Yeah, I was terrified that, who would want to listen to me, Yeah, so I had the same fear, and I still struggle a little bit with, how will I come up with content? But it's interesting. Just keep your eyes and your ears open, and stuff comes up that you think, oh, yes, I could talk to that. I could talk about that, or I could interview that person, or yeah, exactly. So pretty much the same as ditto to what David said.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that. I'm just going to, before we move to you, Marie, to talk about, coming up with content, because that is also something, David, that you mentioned too. You'll start to get used to the fact that you'll look at a particular topic. That's what I now do. Then look at different angles to say, how could I take that particular, topic and shape it a little bit to make it relevant for my audience. And when you start to think with that kind of mindset, you can come up and brainstorm or mind map, a dozen different topics on how that would relate. And, kind of going through that free, what is it, freestyling, but writing, what would be more, and then from there, you just kind of really chunk down. That's something that I do. And then before you know it, all of a sudden this massive brain dump, and you've got lots of different ideas in a notebook. Keep a notebook, because you can always go back and look at what was that, that we'd put down at a, particular time. You can go back and revisit that. So love that. Marita, what would be one thing you would like to leave with people?
I think I totally agree with what David and Amanda said. But I think my biggest fear was, apart from who would want to listen to me, was what if nobody wants to be interviewed by me? I did an awesome list up of all these people I knew, but what if they didn't really want to talk to me? And I sent out my first 6. I thought I'd do 6 emails at a time, in the hope of getting, 1 or 2 that might say yes. And all 6 came back positive. And, 4 of them still haven't actually done the paperwork and made a time. But just the fact that they were all willing to talk to me, I thought was amazing. And the other thing with the topic idea too, that I find now, and Amanda touched on this as well, I think David might have too, but when I'm listening to people now, there's a part of my brain going, I reckon I could talk to them about this on that aspect, and I am, as I say, I'm a connector. I see the dots. I see the big picture. I see how things, I used to say, and I still do, I can justify anything. If I want to do something, I can justify anything, because I can see a different picture. I can see the big picture, and I can see how it's all connected. And so when somebody's talking at a bus stop, in a plane, in a lecture I'm at, a meeting, whatever, I'm listening to them, but there's a part of me going, I'd love to interview them about this particular aspect and how that fits in with my Moving Toward Connection podcast.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it's not a good reason to not do a podcast, thinking that you won't get people to talk to you, because everybody has an aspect of their story that will fit with whatever the title of yours is.
Yeah, just find the angle. You know,
And
I've shared this before, and I'll share this because it fits in beautifully with what you're just saying, Marita, around approaching people. And I'm an introvert, an extroverted introvert. Put me in front of a microphone and I'm fine. Put me in a room full of people like networking that I don't know anyone, and I will go and talk to the people that I already know. But I use my podcast as a reason to approach people to start a conversation, whether it be the guest speaker or someone. I'd say, look, I love the topic that you're talking about. I would love an opportunity to interview you. And everyone that I've done that to has always said yes. And then it's through that relationship building and getting them on the show that I'm able to develop that relationship. So I actually use my podcast as a way to network and build connections with people who in a million years I would not be brave enough to go up to and tap on the shoulder and go, hi, you know. So I love that. Well, we're at the top of the hour. We could continue to talk all for the rest of the day. That's one of the things when you put yourself in front of a microphone and you start to get talking, you can continue because so many more rich discussions come of that. But we've got the rest of the day that obviously we've got booked out. So just again, David, let's just go around the best website to go and listen to each of your podcasts, and then we will go and finish up. So, David, where's the best link for people to connect and listen to your podcast?
Succeedwithmoney.com is the website, and Succeed with Money podcast is the Facebook page.
Fantastic. Amanda?
The Do What You Love podcast.com.
Fantastic. And Marita?
movingtowardconnection.com. On Facebook, it's Marita's Place.
Fantastic. And once again, thank you, you guys. I think you are awesome. Love the impact and the influence that you are making with your message. And it's been an honor to work with each of you. So thanks once again.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you for such a wonderful course. Anyone who wants to do the Podcasting with Purpose course, do it. It is seriously fantastic.
Definitely.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.